All right, we're live. Hello again, guys. Really important stuff we are talking about today. Again, I want to build a community of concerned and conscious individuals who have a passion for making life better and for making ourselves better. That's what I want to create with my podcast. I want it to be a platform for this kind of information and for information that helps people. So, today, what we're going to talk about is religion, the death culture, school system, industry, agriculture, technology, the digitality, or the digital realm, and modern medicine, and how it plays into the human domestication protocols. These protocols were forged a long, long time ago. It started with organized religion. And that's what I'm going to start with first. I'll write some points up that I'm going to talk about. We're starting with religion. So, religion. Golden Age, Atlantis, stolen, going to the Garden of Eden. And God/Jehovah of the Old Testament. We go into how the God of the Old Testament is the true satanic evil. The true Satan is the God that took us out of the Garden of Eden. Go into that. Bear with me here while I get these points written down. I'll go over them in depth in just a second. All right. So, let's go over some of these. So, We're going to talk about the Golden Age, a time before the cultures, the ancient cultures that we know of today, very, very long time ago, which correlates into the Golden Age was the time of Atlantis. It was the time of all the great kingdoms in mythology, in the mythos and the pantheon of the ancient world, which was all real. It was all real individuals, real people passed down as legend and diluted over time through the matrix of passed down word of mouth traditions, kind of like telephone. When you go around the room, you start with a statement and it turns into something else or something elaborated on. So, Atlantis stolen. Go into how the destruction of Atlantis, the destruction of the god realms. Then we go into the Garden of Eden, our descent into de-evolution and desensitization, a descent into human domestication protocols, a descent into some of the more unsavory aspects of our society today. And then we go into, as well, this has a connection with the Garden of Eden. The God in the Old Testament is actually the real Satan. The serpent in the Garden of Eden meaning the jungle. The serpent was actually the serpent goddess of ancient tradition that was not tempting them with a sin, but showing them that they as human beings have the right to divine access to the tree of knowledge, the tree of the world tree, as guardian traditions. So the God or Jehovah of the Old Bible, the Old Testament, which is Catholicism and then Judaism, is the true satanic evil, and that's where we get blood sacrifice rituals, and also with Islam as well. It's the godhead of those religions is the true Satan, is the true domesticator, and I'll get into that a little more. And then this plays into how all of these factors have been deconstructing the God self, and then furthermore disconnecting us from a organic, direct, experiential spirituality. Furthermore, indoctrinating us into a priesthood mentality or a group mentality, which also plays into the hive mind think. So it plays into giving authority, right over our experience of the world, the universe, spirituality, everything that entails life. All of the most important questions that we ask: why are we here? What are we going to do? What should we do? What shouldn't we do? And creating the priesthood mentality is what takes that autonomy away from us as individuals, deciding on an individual level before we go to the group mind think. So this plays into signing over autonomy of experiential knowledge of the deepest truth, which is your experience of life and experience of society and religion and all of these things. So where I want to start is the Golden Age. So in the Golden Age, there were different kingdoms or realms. So Atlantis was the central hub, the main, the headquarters of the super ancient world. So before 12,000 years ago. So the Golden Age, which is spoken about in every ancient tradition that's ever existed, Atlantis is spoken about as well in almost every ancient culture because of its connection globally to the whole world. Each of the ancient cultures is really just one of its settlements, one of its elaborations. Every kingdom, every mythological realm in the ancient texts existed in a real, at least in a to a certain extent, in a real way. So the Eden of the Garden of Eden, you could go into what was in the garden, was the serpent goddess. Okay, serpent could also mean literal, but it could also mean the serpent. You know, maybe something like the Nile River or the Amazon, which to them is seen as the great mother serpent. Also could translate to the Milky Way, which is seen as the winding serpent. So Eden, which was one of these kingdoms, one of these realms, where we were able to, as man, not below, but as primitive primal man, naked in the jungle, we were able to access the divine tree of knowledge, the divine truth. And a lot of people go into how the apple was actually a kind of sacred, a kind of sacrament of sorts, not traditionally, but that it was the Amanita muscaria mushroom, and that it was a kind of holy device that we as individuals had access to and had autonomy with and autonomy over. In the Garden of Eden, this is where the tree of knowledge was. This is where the world tree was. And there's also the Asgard was one of the kingdoms in this realm. So Asgard was also one of them. As well, if you want to go further into it, there is Eden, there is Asgard, there was, in Greek mythology, there was Mount Olympus, which is where the gods of those traditions went to. Mount Olympus, and you could keep naming them off. Egypt was definitely one of the kingdoms, all of the ancient kingdoms, which is why they all built pyramids and things like that. They're all connected to each other. But Eden, Asgard, Mount Olympus, and Zion, these were probably some of the main, some of the distinct realms within this. And as well, this has to do as well with the Elysian fields, the Elysian ceremonies and sacrifices. So they all existed as hubs around the central hub, which was Atlantis. A lot of people have postulated that Mount Olympus existed there, Asgard was a kingdom, Zion, the Elysian fields, all of these things. They were all true kingdoms at one point in a golden age where we were gods among men, not in the sense of more than human, but in the sense of we were more than we are now. We were more capable. We were vastly more intelligent, vastly more autonomous, vastly more optimized. And in this golden age, we had everything, a plethora and plenty. It was a plenum. We were existing in the fountain of youth, which was actually another one of these things, the fountain of youth. Another fountain that it has become legend. It could have been a waterfall of some sort, something along those lines. But all these things in myth were once real. They were once concrete. And we had access to them. We were gods. We are descendants of these gods of Zeus, of Odin, of of Thor, of the gods in the Mayan tradition, the gods in Egyptian, Osiris, Isis, Thoth, in Africa, the African mythology as well. So we are descendants of these gods, these godly realms. And it's a lot of people might think that this is getting into kind of magical or mysterious places. And it is, because you can look into Atlantis, you can look into all of these things, and there are many, many people who are now gathering scientific evidence to prove that Atlantis once existed, or that something like it did. So, and this also goes into a new book recently published by Graham Hancock, who wrote about magicians of the gods, and he goes into how there is most certainly a culture that had to have existed at one point in time that disseminated all other cultures, that basically predates them, and brought this world into a golden age, literally in terms of gold being used as a magical in Egypt and all of these places. South America, Asia, gold is one of the main centerpieces, gold statues, gold buildings. But other than that, it was literally a golden age of metaphorical speaking. So golden, shining, godly, that we were gods. And in that respect, we have been devolved from being gods, that there are latent abilities within our genetics, latent skills, and also latent access to different components that we once had then, different parts of our humanity that have been domesticated out of us so that we can be more comfortable and so that we can fit better into society. And I'll go into that a little more later. If you want to look into the existence of all of these things, definitely look into Atlantis, look into Graham Hancock, look into all of the research that's done in finding that place. Because in finding that place, we connect cultures. We can then say, okay, this place actually existed, as we all feel as though there is a part of our history missing, that our fall into history is not random. It is not cultures springing up randomly all over the world with almost impossible similarities. Every one of them building pyramids, every one of them having sun worship. Every one of them. There's so many similarities, it's ridiculous, but they're across continents, and supposedly they never interacted with each other. And now we are starting to know that that is wrong, and that the mythos, the pantheon of the ancient world is real. It has just been diluted over time through legend, through passing information on from one generation to the next. So, moving forward from the golden age, again, look this stuff up for yourself. I am not going to tell you what to think about it. This is what I've experienced, what I've seen, what I've looked up about it. So research it for yourself. So we move on to Atlantis stolen in the Garden of Eden. So whether it was intentional or not, the mighty and populous nation of Atlantis, the realm of the gods, was destroyed in an earthquake, it was said. A quake of some sort. Now again, these stories have been passed down over time, so we don't know if it was intentional or not. And I think it was intentional. I think, yes, perfectly reasonable to suspect an earthquake destroying the island, submerging it into the sea. That is possible. But to me, the way I feel about it, it was intentional. Just as the Garden of Eden, the domestication of human beings, was intentional by a true demonic force, a demonic entity. So, Atlantis stolen. So, usually, whenever I think of this, I think of the League of Shadows in Batman. Um, I think of the League of Shadows, a group of elite individuals who strategically destroy cities and destroy places when the corruption has become too much. And what happened in the story of the Golden Age is it became a mighty nation, and then corruption poisoned the gods. The power poisoned their souls. Some of them it did not, of course, but some of them started to plot and scheme and became evil. So what I think happened is that either a group of individuals saw this happening, realized that an age needed to come to an end, and so they put a stop to it, either with some technology we are not aware of, weather-changing device, maybe Poseidon, in this respect, who's real. Maybe he had mastery over technologies that could form and shape the weather that we're not aware of. A lot of keepers of tradition have said that things like Atlantis have happened many, many ages, many, many times over and over again. These kind of places rise up and fall. It's very normal. It's a thing that happens in history. So what I think is it could have been intentional, or the corruption might have destroyed it on its own. But the realm of the gods then was lost. We have the fall into history. We have the Garden of Eden. This is where man first came out of the primal state, the primitive state, what you would call the pure human experience, being truly naked, not just without clothes, but without the matrix. Okay, we were truly naked. All of our boundaries and barriers dissolved. We lived in paradise. We lived in the Eden, the paradise realm, in a sense. So, with the Garden of Eden, what happens in the story is that the serpent goddess, the serpent, who is said to really be Satan in the Bible, but really, if you analyze it and look at it, the serpent seems kind of awesome, because God says, do not eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge and life in the world. Do not. Because only I get to have access to it. So then, of course, because it's human nature, when you tell a kid, when you tell anyone, a pure human expression, when you tell them not to do something, they want to do it anymore, and even more, because it's a curiosity. It is a part of our human nature to want to do things that we are banished from, that are inappropriate. All of these things that are deemed unwise to do, we seek out. So, of course, we're going to go, actually, I want to eat of the fruit, but I want the sacred sacrament. And the serpent says, well, why don't you? You know, what is there to fear? What do you know, what's stopping you? Why not? And that's because the serpent wants them to eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, because the God is a liar. The God says you can't handle the truth. You can't handle the deepest truth of your being and your human nature. You can't handle that. So you don't get to have it. Only I do. Only I get to be the conduit of spirituality, of divinity. And what happened is he punished them. Okay, this demonic force punished the primitive man, and basically what happened is that this force, whatever it may have been, led us away from direct access to direct experiential spirituality, direct access to the divine, the direct access to the tree of knowledge, which also exists in Asgardian tradition, the world tree, Yggdrasil. So, and also exists in Egyptian mythology. So the tree of life, which is the acacia, is also a sacrament in Theogen, the same as the Amanita muscaria mushroom in the Garden of Eden. In the Asgardian tradition, it is very similar. But basically what this demonic force did is it told us we are not allowed to have direct access to spirituality. You have to go through me. I am the Father. I am the male energy. And this is where we fall into history. And this is where we go into how God and Jehovah in the Old Testament, the origin, the Godhead of the mainstream, mainline majority religions in the world, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, Catholicism. This is where they come from. This horrible, satanic, disgusting, predatorial entity that wants to take your divine human energy and desensitize it, demoralize it, demonize it, and then deify the Father, the male energy, the controlling, manipulative, constricting force on your mind. And the mechanics of this go into deconstructing the God self. So the God self is the primal self, the individual human energy. It is the God self. What we have been taken away from and devolved away from through this process is access to power, individual autonomy. The God self has been devolved out of us over time, literally through the psyche, and also, well, literally through DNA, and through the psyche, and metaphorically and metaphysically through these aspects. Basically, what happened is that after Atlantis fell, okay, the gods were destroyed. They were separated over the world. They had to separate to the east, to the west, to the south, to the north. They no longer had their central hub, so it was a perfect time for this kind of evil to begin to take its hold on the world while everyone was separated. This Atlantis is the same story of the Tower of Babel, when God confused the world. Basically, Babylon means confusion, or Babel means confusion, kind of like babbling when you're just speaking, randomly. So, this was a perfect time for the world to become separated. Okay, this also creates the perfect conditions for the disconnection, or the eventual disconnection of our God spirituality, or our direct experiential spirituality. So our direct connection to the divine is severed, and now we can be convinced that other things are real that are not. Okay, so once you disconnect everyone not only from each other distance-wise and geographically, you can now disconnect them mentally, spiritually, physically, everything. So, disconnection from our direct experiential spirituality, our birthright as earthen beings to access the tree of knowledge, the tree of true wealth, the tree of life in the world. So, we're going to go into introduction into priesthood mentality. So the way that this Godhead decides how the divine is translated, transmuted, and transferred and transformed into your consciousness is through a priesthood. And what this is a group of individuals who access the tree of knowledge, access God, whatever you want to call it, and then they just relay that message to you. Whether or not that message means anything to you, whether or not it actually was the real message that was taken from that God force or from a direct access point. And this is what the elites do nowadays as well, just in a more complex and dynamic way. So what they do is they translate that message to you. So it's no longer your direct access to that thing. It is now delineated. It is now devolved, diluted, desensitized. It is now deconstructed for you. And what this does is it severs your connection to the experiential knowledge, to the birthright of being earth people, of being of the earth, being human beings. It is our birthright to have access to the divine knowledge of our planet, of our history, of our world, of our life, of our spirituality. What this plays into as well is the hive mind think, the hive mind mentality, because then it teaches you to value the priesthood or to value a group of individuals who have authority and have the power position over you. It tells you to value that over your direct experience, and that is what mainstream religion is. That's what organized religion is in the modern world and in this context in the ancient world or recently ancient. So it cultivates a hive mind think, a hive mind mentality, and it also tells you to outsource your autonomy and your human potential to someone else just because God deems it so. The God you don't have access to, the God you don't have communion with truly. It is like having a messenger for God. My name means the message of God or the messenger of God. And I'm here to tell you that no one can tell you what God is. You have to find it for yourself through your own direct experience, through your own direct access point, whatever that may be. That is the true religion. That is the original religion. Is what paganism is from, what Wicca is from, what all of these sun worship demonized ideologies are about. Is they're about you connecting with the source, you connecting with God, source, the earth, whatever it may be in your sacred perception is that thing. So you go experience it in your own way, through your own process, through your own journey. And I cannot say whether or not it is true. I can't, because it is not my experience. And your experience is mediated through your perception, through your focal point, through your perspective point. And it is just as valuable as mine because it is the same, except from a different angle. So, this is what happens. What it translates into is you sign over your autonomy of experiential knowledge. So, during the time of the gods, we were autonomous, we were godlike, we were explosive energetically. We were vastly, vastly more skilled than we are now, mentally, physically, everything. We had a mastery of the elements. We had a mastery of stones and of magic and of all of these things we have slowly lost over time, these experiential technologies. And what this does is, whenever you sign a contract or whenever you go convert into a religion or any of these things, you're signing over your autonomy. You're basically saying, I'm signing over my ability and my access to the divine. Here, think for me. Here, feel for me. Here, say for me. Hear for me. You're giving up, the whole see no evil, hear no evil, all that stuff. It is a construct of ignorance. It is, I am not prepared for the deepest of truths. I cannot handle the deepest of truths. So I'm going to give that up to you willingly so that you can experience it and then tell me what it is so that I can stay over here and be comfortable. So that I can stay over here and be just a sinful, little demonized human, so that I can be a little primitive, stupid human. This kind of programming relays into everything else. This is where it started. This is how we got to the point we are now. And this programming still exists in today's world and will exist until people step away from it, step away from the programming. Now, I don't mean step away from religion. I mean take back the power position like I've talked about in some of my other videos. So, now we're going to go to the next one. Next one is culture. Be a lot of fun. Bear with me. I'm going to have to write this up. Just take a minute. I don't see any viewers right now, but if you're watching this, please comment. Say anything you want. Give me your opinion. Also, I have launched my artist shop, and I want to use it as an alpha expressions platform. So first and foremost, individual expression, which is alpha. First and foremost, that's what the word means, alpha expressions. So the alpha expressions I want to put up, it's my individual expression. My messages, your clothing is really important because this is a message. The clothing you put on your body is an expression to everyone else. So I want to create a platform where me and others share in this kind of culture, in a sense. If you believe in individual expression, I want to hear yours as well, so that I can make your expression happen on that level with clothes, with things like that. So another thing, check it out. It's becomealphapodcast.threadless.com, THREADLESS.com. All right, guys. So the programming I talked about in the previous part plays into culture. Okay. Religion is a way, organized religion, not the direct experiential individual expression religion, but organized religion, the hive mind think mentality is what fuels the culture to exist. So what religion in that respect is a way to manipulate and control the consensus reality. So a way to manipulate and control the consensus consciousness, a way to control ideas, a way to control people's thoughts and feelings and emotions towards the physical, towards the mental, towards the environment. In the Bible it says man has dominion over nature, where you get all of the dominionated kind of programs for today's world with agriculture, which we'll go into in a little bit. That was one of our points. But monoculture, cutting down the Amazon, when we don't need to, doing all of these things because this allows and creates a manifesto for that. So it is a part of my religion. It is my right as a human being, as a Christian, or whatever you want to call it, to destroy the earth, to have dominion over it, to have control, to domesticate everything in my path, including my followers and my own people. So, first, we're going to go into the hive mind think. This is a big part of our culture today. It is poisoning the minds of our citizens, pedestrians, things like that. Hive mind think. So, from before, it says, put your autonomy into the hands of a priesthood. Okay, so let the priesthood decide for you what God is. Let the priesthood and their sacred books and knowledge, let them define it for you, regardless of how valid or how connected you are to that knowledge. Accept it as reality. This plays into the hive mind think of not only culture, but of school, but of everything that is put into our bodies. All of the input that we get is this. So our individual expression is hindered by the hive mind think because initially your expression is not valuable. Initially, your expression is unvaluable to the group because you should be more concerned with what the group thinks of you. And this is in school, culture, communities and neighborhoods, is that you should be more concerned about what the neighbor thinks of you rather than your own expression, your own genuine alpha expression. Instead of that, you're thinking about what other people think of you. And this is really hurtful, especially or only when, because groups are not a bad thing. This is where we go into Spartan group mentality. So groups aren't a bad thing, but it is bad when the individual hasn't been addressed and assessed and, in a sense, fixed, sort of. Not fixed or fixated, but when the individual has been addressed, when the individual can express, can break away all of those barriers and all of those boundaries that keep us dumbed down and desensitized, the programming. If you can get the individual away from that programming, then the group functions as a super ultra strong individual instead of a bunch of people just trying to think in terms of the other. So the hive mind think, this doesn't even go into a real true hive in terms of a bee colony, because they're all working towards the same end. See, with the hive mind think in today's world, people don't have their individual selves down. They don't have their mission, their passion. Bees are like, I want to make honey. I want to get, the queen to make the babies. Everything's in line. There's an alignment. And that's why they can make honey in huge hives and beautiful, pollinate millions of plants. Why that happens is because their passion, the purpose is already there organically. So whenever we're talking about today's hive mind thing, we're talking about discordant, disconnected people who don't live in the same hive, but they try and operate with a group mentality instead of focusing on first individual expression, then operating in terms of other people. Because if you have yourself down, then you can more efficiently, more effectively operate with the people around you, and it becomes more fluid and things become better over time. So the Spartan group mentality, boom, I'm gonna underline it again because it's awesome. I'm gonna put this, boom, exclamation point. The Spartan group mentality is, if one soldier is weak, the whole entire army is weak. And that's why when they faced the slaves of the Persian army, they thought, this is going to be nothing. You have slaves. Everyone here is here of their own volition, their own loyalty, their own pride. We didn't make anyone come here today. He would turn, if anyone wants to leave, do it now. There's no dishonor. Do it now. Because the way a Spartan army functions is with every individual strong, and then just organically it makes the group strong. You don't have to focus on making the whole group function as a whole. I mean, you can, but that's after the individuals are taken into account. That's after each one of those Spartans are ready to die immediately for the cause, for the purpose, for the passion, for the mentality, for the country, for the culture, for everything. I'm not asking anyone to die for me, but part of that metaphor is that the Spartans believe if there's a chink in the armor, the soldier is useless. In the same way the pack works, the group works. And a lot of, and this also goes into wolf pack. I'll put that up. So wolf pack functions with the strongest wolf in the back. The front wolf is the weakest and oldest. The leader is in the back, just walking along, just checking out everything, because they have to be. They have to have a good eye. If they're always in front and forward, they can't check if anyone's following them. And that's how leaders are today in a lot of respects. They go, I'm the one. Everyone follow me around. Everyone do what I say and do what I do because I'm awesome. And I'm not going to do that. I want everyone to figure out what their own way is. And if you have to do some things before you figure out your own way, that's cool too. But that's not what's expressed in a leadership position now. And it's kind of dwindling away because people are realizing how useless it is that some people have to act like they're leaders. They have to act like they are in a powerful position. But if you are in a powerful position in your life and in yourself and in your expression and in your individuality, you won't have to act like it for anyone. It'll be a thing. It'll just happen on its own. People will look to you for that. And I'm not saying you want people to look to you as that. I'm saying if you do that, you won't have to try and be a leader. You won't have to try and do all of these things. You won't have to try to gain courage for things. Now, usually before I make a video, I do breathing exercises to really ground myself. And that's one thing that I use because it's really scary to put yourself in a position of power individually. It's scary because you don't know if you're going to suck. You don't know if you're going to fail. Okay? But then again, we're all going to die one day. This thing that you see Sam as right now is going to go away one day. I'm not sure when. Definitely not anytime soon in terms of what I want and my plans for the future. Anything can happen. But what I'm saying is the wolf pack functions with its weakest at the front because you can keep an eye on them. If the weakest was in the back, they'd be dead. No one would notice. They'd be like, "No, where's Bob? Oh, okay. Well, I guess he's dead." Just like no accountability. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's why the strongest is in the back. And even if that isn't technically how every wolf pack is, whatever. Okay, it's a good analogy. I'm not an expert. I'm not a, I don't study animals. I mean, I do love animals and have seen a lot of information on them, but I'm not like, I don't go out there and study wolves. Okay, I don't know all the nuances. But the leader being in the back is the coolest concept because he doesn't have to be in front charging around through the forest, you know? Just chilling in the back, making sure everyone's okay, just hanging out. Just, yeah, it's cool. It's awesome. Great guys. And if the old guy in the front is like, fuck, I can't do it, and he lays down, then he's like, all right, guys, let's lay down. Let's lay down with him. If he dies, we're going to be here for that. If he goes down, we're here for that. We're here for him or her. We're going to be here for that. So, Wolfpack. So what this goes into, the hive mind think, is a higher dimensional matrix body exploitation. So what I mean by that is when you have your primal self down and you have your primal, your human self down, your human expression down, all of that great stuff for the individual down, your body, your mind, all this good stuff, and then the environment around you, your life, your friends, all these things. When all those things are addressed, life is in order, boom. Then you go into the matrix body, which is your societal body, your identity, all of these things, how those interplay, your status, your role, all of these things in society, in the greater body. That's when you start putting on your clothes. Okay, you start putting on your leadership clothes or whatever you wear out into the society, your identity. That's when you put on your identification clothes. And in the Matrix movie, they call it your residual self-image. Okay, but if this, Spartan group Wolfpack mentality isn't garnered before that, you're not operating as an individual, then you are very susceptible and receptive to programming. But not only that, there's going to be a lot of people in the Matrix, which I call Matrix masters, and these people are going to take advantage of you. They're going to take advantage of your weaknesses because you haven't addressed that sacred aspect of yourself. And I don't want you to think that these Matrix masters are, they are evil in a certain sense. They've been maintaining the de-evolution of human beings, but they are also, when you have that individual aspect of yourself down, they are also very powerful tools for overcoming those things. So you become a stronger human being. You become one step closer to your God self. You become one step closer to becoming, Osiris or Odin or whatever, or Thor, or any of the gods and goddesses. So you become closer to your God self when you address yourself as an individual and you get away from that programming, because it is an exploitation of your humanity whenever that happens. And when people aren't developed individually and then they're also mixed into the group, it becomes a gigantic obfuscation experience and confusion experience. And then they're even more susceptible to religious programming, to media programming, to industrial programming, to everything. So then, now that I said media corporations pushing cultural programming. So this plays into how people on the television and other entities within the economy, within the industry, how they push programming onto people. So what you should wear, what you should say, what you should feel, who you should appreciate. And this also goes into big media commercials. Now, I'm going to do just a bunch of videos on commercials and how these same people who have been maintaining this this kind of de-evolution programming, this human domestication protocol for human beings, I'm going to show you how these entities, these massive conglomerates, treat you as a slave. They treat you as someone who's stupid and hasn't addressed individual aspects of yourself. And that's why a lot of times on bank commercials, all these different commercials, especially like sports commercials, things like that, they'll have famous people talk to you, and they'll make some hilarious or funny scenario, supposed to be funny, entertainment, entrainment, entrapment, ensnarement, hypnotism, a kind of hypnotic display, so that you don't focus on what's actually important, which is whether or not they have a good product or a good service, but that they said something funny with a famous person on their commercial. So you're like, oh, haha, sure, I'll buy State Farm. Oh, haha, I'll buy, I'll go watch, NFL, or I'll go watch this, or I'll go watch that, because they think you're stupid. So if they didn't think you were stupid, what they would do is, we're State Farm, we're a bank. Here's all the great things we've done for people, and just list them out. Come join us in our banking experience. And that would be it. If they thought you were intelligent, they'd have to prove it to you. They'd have to be like, oh, damn, man, these guys really have their shit straight. We're going to have to come up with some good numbers somehow. We're going to have to show how good we are at what we do. We're going to actually have to prove it to these people, because they don't take our word for it, just on the dot. And so basically what they do is they try and rope as many people into it as possible. And it's not just being State Farm, but just anyone like that who has a stupid commercial that is showing you some kind of confabulated scenario thing. Is because most of them are like, oh, these are just fucking idiots who don't pay attention. And they're just like, oh, that was so funny, I'm gonna go with them now. That's what they do. So they think you're really stupid and can't understand logistics, can't understand statistics, can't understand legality, can't understand a lot of things. They think you don't, because you're stupid, because you are fucking slaves. That's what they think, and that's what they treat you as. They treat you as cattle in a pen. And there's like a little sign that's like, oh, hey, look over here. It's a distraction. It's like in a circus when they want you to play those stupid games that you can't win ever, and they still go, come on, try, it's so awesome. There's a big thing that you shoot and you get a prize. And that's how they treat you. They treat you like a little child in a circus. They're trying to scam as much money from you as possible in most circumstances. If it's a real company, it'll show you, okay, this is what we're about. This is what we are. This is what we've done. This is how much we can do for you. They don't need a commercial pretending, doing all these elaborate things like funny comedic scenarios, and just stupid shit like that. They're just rubbing it in your face. They're saying, yes, we are the cultural programmers. We are the elite. We are the people who control and manipulate the consensus consciousness. I'm going to rub it in your face because we can do whatever we want to do. The central banking system has been around for a long time and done some really fucked up shit, like orchestrate the Great Depression. The same people who own those banks own them now. It hasn't changed. It's not like different people now are willing to be okay. Basically, the elites are a bunch of people like the soda the soda industry, big agriculture, big pharma, all of these things. basically what happens is they're so powerful with their wealth that they think they can get away with anything. So they just rub it in your face because they think you're stupid little pedestrians. And guess what? I'm not. This Gentile is not going to go gently into that good night. So this plays into a lot as well. So big thing is the seat of this Godhead that it created this programming. Created the programming for Christianity, for Catholicism, for Judaism, for Islam. Now, there are a lot of people in power positions in the central banking system who are a part of religions and also secret societies. That can be a whole nother episode as well, because the people in power positions in the central banking system and Hollywood and the media, Walt Disney, all of these conglomerates that span the globe, they're also Jesuit Freemasons. They're the higher-ups, they're the elites. They're completely separate from the lower chapters. They're completely separate. And as well, this goes into NASA. This goes into the entire elite power structure, is that they are all connected to Judaism and Freemasonry. They all project this kind of programming, and they all are about domesticating human beings and making them subservient little slave people. They're making them, making you basically want to absorb and want to ingest all of the things they want you to. The big thing is they don't want you to be autonomous. So they don't want you to be able to say, I don't need your product. I don't need that. Because they have a need to stay in this power position, this manipulative position. Now, when the Catholic Empire was taken down, the church, was basically like, hey, you can't do that shit anymore. Those agents of that Godhead, the ultimate demon, they make reference to it in Captain America Winter Soldier with the many heads of Hydra. So you can't kill this thing. So agents came from this religious Godhead institution that birthed Christianity and Judaism and Islam and all these other things. Basically what they did was agents from within there had to come into America, into the American dream, which was getting away from those kind of horrible religious institutions. They made their way into the modern America and the modern world. I'm not going to go too much into depth into that, but this is what is happening. So these agents or individuals have made their way into the power structures that be of the United States and of the world. And they now are the seat. They have an oligarchical positioning in terms of the global world. I don't want to say global, but just the world over internationally. So they have a power structure that extends beyond the United States. It's everywhere. I don't want to be pushing some kind of fear porn agenda, but you can look it up for yourself. I'm not saying that it's hopeless. I'm not going to go Alex Jones on you and be like, oh, they're everywhere. Oh my God. And not that Alex Jones is wrong, but he doesn't point out specific aspects of this. Okay, clothing. A big part of how cultural programming happens is what you wear. And this is also associated with like genders in a sense, that this programming kind of has to do with eugenics and stuff like that. How it's been programmed how women and men should dress. And if you do it differently, it's kind of weird, definitely strange. And people push that boundary as well. I'm not saying that is precisely evil. I mean, I think the people behind it are, but our individual expression can't be held down by these. by these stereotypes or social norms or paradigms. Clothing is a big one, and this goes into the clothing you wear, not just this shirt, but also your identity. It is the mask over your true self. And it is forged out of a connection to your individuality. It is forged out of the individual expression and how that relays into the group, into the larger group of society, into everything else. And so this plays into the cultural self relationship and how this programming can be overcome by taking out these plugs, like in the Matrix, when all those plugs just fly off and he's put into the real world. This is how the cultural and self relationship is recultivated, is revived. Your relationship to the culture defines how well you do in life. And this relationship means is going back and addressing, like I said in one of my previous videos, addressing that, addressing yourself and your life and your friends and all of these things, addressing all the relationships that you have, starting with your body and your mind, then branching out into the environment that you live in, all of these things, your relationship to everything. So that concludes the cultural aspect. Drink of water. So, when it's going to be school. Bear with me for a minute. Excuse me if I spelled pen wrong. I mean like a pen, like a closed in area. All right. So, next one, school. So, go back into hive mind think. Okay. So the hive mind think started in the fall of Atlantis, down through the Garden of Eden into the descendants of man. So descending into de-evolution and into hindered access to our human potential. So, hive mind think. This plays into school. So immediately, yourself is demonized. Your expression is demonized, especially in the presence of an authority figure as a teacher, whom, regardless of whether or not they deserve it, demand your attention, demand that you sit still as you are supposed to, that you don't make noise, that you constrict your expression, sit still, shut up, and absorb the information. They're turning you into what is called an alter. Okay? So, in the MK Ultra experiments where they did mind control techniques on individuals whilst giving them LSD, which is a real thing. Look up in MK Ultra. It's declassified now. So it's too late to do anything about it, which is another technique that these institutions do, is they keep it secretive for long enough for you not to do anything about it, and then they release it. So, got to get on the ball, guys. One thing is an alter. You can look this up as well. It's a personality that you create within the individual's mind. It is a split in the psyche. It is a rift in the individual. What happens is they create another personality within this little kid, and this little child. I don't know if the teachers know it or not, but this is a real thing. So basically an alter is creating a point where you are able to be susceptible to programming into your mind, receptive to a lot of things, demands, susceptible, receptive to things that the programmer wants you to think. But whether or not you think differently at all, whether or not you have something to say about it, it doesn't matter. Okay, that's the whole thing. If you argue with a teacher, if you have something different to say to a teacher, usually when you don't agree with the curriculum or whatever, you don't get to say shit because you're a fucking kid. So shut up and sit down, or you're going to detention, which is, in a sense, for kids, jail is jail for kids. It's just prison for kids. You get to be isolated. You get to sit in a room and be punished. It used to be a lot worse back in the day. Not completely sure how it is now, but they program these little things into you. They program these things that are going to translate into the society and how the circus master programming works. So they get you into this hive mind think mentality, and the way that they do this is by demoralizing and demonizing your expression, saying, no, it's not important right now. You need to be learning what I'm telling you. You need to be accepting and receptive to what I'm saying. Now, teacher-child relationship, they create an alter with the child where the personality splits, and they realize, okay, now I have to operate in terms of other people, in terms of these authority figures, which then translate on to be the elite of the adult world, or the power structures that be. And these same elite manifest in schools in terms of the power hierarchy there. The principal, all those things, the dean, or whatever exists at that school. So you go down to chairs, and this goes into also offices and things like that. Very much a hive. It's like a big beehive of people working for one thing. So in school they have the chairs. Okay, the chairs there are highly dysfunctional. It completely inactivates the lower part of your body. Doesn't allow for circulation. It does a lot of things that are terrible for your body. It creates dysfunction in your hips. It does a lot of things. So instead of having standing desks, which would be logical eventually, you're like, okay, kids are really uncomfortable. Well, let's get them standing up so they're not slouched over their desks looking down. Okay. Now when you're looking down, okay, the plane that you're in, the awareness level that you have, this is a fighting position. I go into this in one of my other videos. They're usually up, when you're writing, usually up like this. This is a fighting position. So whenever you're looking down like this, you're trying to shield yourself And this is your body's reaction to how they are attacking you with these ideas and these constructs and conventions that they've maintained over time and keep maintaining. There is some allowance, but it's going to be a long time before you see the majorities of schools having standing desks, letting kids be expressive and how they feel about the curriculum instead of just being force-fed a single rigid structure for everyone and everything, which has been proven over and over and over again, including standardized testing, not to be functional, okay, for a lot of people, including myself. I can't operate that way. It doesn't work for a free spirit, okay? So for someone like me, who's a stallion, who's a little harder to break than most, they have to use stronger techniques. And whenever I value my well-being and myself over others, it's seen as bad. You're seen as antisocial. You're seen as anti-society, anti all these fucking things. Because it goes into group above self and cliques. 1 second. These words that are going to be called protection spells. They're going to be called spells for these people because they put a spell on you. They say you're anti this, you're anti-social, you're anti that, you're just a freak, you're all these things. So they put a label on you so that they don't have to treat you like another human being. So they don't have to treat you like an expressive human being. So with ideas, with value, with potential, with love, with all of these things. Because, and it's one thing that people use for let's say, conspiracy theorists. So basically, if there's an idea outside of the norm, people just go, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. That's not real. And then, boom, it's a magic word. When you call someone a conspiracy theorist, most of the people, the majority, go, oh, geez, I'm not going to listen to that guy. Because it is that hive mind think. It's that wanting to be comfortable in your little normative lifestyle. So, and it's that thing where you go, oh no, conspiracy theory means something's happening, something that wouldn't be comfortable, something that makes me uncomfortable. So it makes them afraid because they haven't addressed that part of themselves that's wild. So, then there are other words, especially words for religious institutions that protect them, like Judaism. One of them being anti-Semite. So I am anti-organized religion in most senses of the word. I'm not anti-human. I'm not anti-expression. What I am is I'm anti these motherfuckers that create this programming. And it has to do with Judaism, with Islam, with Christianity, with Catholicism. It has to do with major religions and how they program people into this position of domestication. Now, word in Judaism, and there's the same kind of words in Islam. You know, in Sharia, in all of their sacred books, they have words like this. They're spells. So anti-Semite is a spell. It is a protection spell for people of Judaism. And what it means is just you don't agree with Jewish people, or you aren't okay with them. You are anti what they are, what they want, what they believe. That should be the right of every individual to not like someone and what they're doing and what they want for the world. It should be every right for you to agree with them and also to not like them. But no, immediately, anti-Semite, racist, all of those things. If I don't like something a religious institution and its people are a part of, that is my right as a human being to express that. Now, I'm not saying, no one is saying they hate all Jewish people. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is In terms of religion, I am strongly against most religions. I go against them. That is my expression happening. It is not me just picking a bone with people of Judaism or people of Christianity or anyone. And by the way, I'm not talking about anyone specifically. If I am anti-Judaism, that doesn't mean anything necessarily. It means I don't agree with it, something like that. Not saying I don't, but if there are these little words like that, they're protection spells. They're basically like, oh, I can say this word to you, and now everyone thinks you're an asshole. Now everyone thinks you're a racist. Oh, I can say conspiracy theorist, and now everyone thinks you're insane. Now everyone thinks you're crazy and have schizophrenia. Now everyone thinks you're a goddamn freak. This is when it becomes dangerous, is it because that is a mechanism that feeds into the hive mind think. It's these magical words that these programmers have created, like racist, like any of those words. They're protection words for certain individuals, especially individuals in power. So, another one of the words in Judaism, which I don't agree with, is something in the Talmud. It's called Gentile. And there are words like this in Islam, words like this in Christianity, words like this in Catholicism. But I'm using Judaism because people are super sensitive about that religion and those people in general. But there are certain individuals within that religion that see anyone who doesn't believe in their religion as Gentiles, as basically akin to beasts, as basically animals for us to foster and enslave and domesticate. And this part of it, and other religions alike, is where these domestication protocols come from. So this is something incredibly serious that everyone needs to get on and research and do some thinking. Because, like I said earlier, this Gentile will not go gently into that good night. Okay? So, when we're talking about those words, they're magical spell words. Okay? So this is what the elites think of you. These people in the power structures, they think of you as a Gentile. It's what you could call a muggle. Basically someone who isn't divine, who isn't magical like they are, who isn't given the Holy Land or given the holiness or given direct access to the holiness, the wholeness. It goes into the well-being. You are innately as a human being. And there are these individuals that are in now, not just in religion, which is where it started. They're in religion now, but they are also all over the place. To be honest, that would be ridiculous. I could go into depth in other videos as well. What I can do is I can show you how to get away from it. Because you don't have to cut off the heads of Hydra. All you have to do is regain that power position in your life. Reclaim that autonomy for yourself. Okay? And then you create that power position like I talked with the Circus Master programming. When you stop eating their steaks, they're going to have to think. They're going to have to figure you out. It's not going to be the other way around, you working for them. It's going to be them working for you, which is how culture, society, industry, all these things are supposed to work. But we've been disempowered and disenfranchised over thousands of years to operate as domesticated cattle. So that was just a little glimpse. I'll probably make some other stuff about that. This goes into the teacher-authority relationship. So the teacher is one of the first things, besides parents, that you associate with being in an authority position. Listen to me. I have experience and knowledge. For your parents, this is a little closer to home. But teachers deal with someone outside of your authoritative structure at home. unless your parent is your teacher in school or you're homeschooled. So what happens is these children create this authoritative relationship, and when they do, the authority over themselves through this programming, and so they don't express themselves very often, and this is why you get childhood depression. This is why you get a lot of problems, a lot of concentration problems, focus problems, ADHD, ADD, all these things. Okay, they all rope into this category of an incredibly dysfunctional system. And it is getting better, but it is only dysfunctional now still because it has been maintained, and we have not taken back the power position in our lives, in our society, in the greater body, in everything. We don't take a stand anymore because we're domesticated cattle. So this plays into the death culture. I just said kids are cattle in a pen, okay, or cattle. Death culture. So there's a culture in society that is underlying, okay? What it says is, you're born, you can be a kid for a little bit, then you're expected to go to school, then you're expected to go to more school or high school, and then you're expected to go to college. And then if you want to be real awesome, you got to get a PhD, or you got to get a master's, or you got to get any of those things. Not saying school or any of that is bad, again. This is just a kind of norm that you're expected to do. So do that. All right, now get a job. Go get a job. Dedicate 10, 20 years of your life to that job. Have kids. Okay. Now that you've gotten married and have kids, you're going to have to dedicate that part of your life to the children. So now you've spent probably 40 years dedicating yourself to other people. And then now you have to dedicate yourself to your own people, your own things that you've made, your own people you've made with your body, with your sexual energy, with your primal energy. Then you have to dedicate another 20 years to their life. Then, after that, you're really old and really, really, really fucking tired, really exhausted of this whole entire structure. And then you're old, you're senile. Okay, now nursing home. Now you're fucking crazy, senile. You know, haha, yeah, the system's all messed up. Fuck you. Okay, I'm over here trying to get, you know, the $1 billion. I'm your son. You know, you can go fuck yourself. I'll put you in a home for, you know, $100,000 a year. So this is the structure. Okay, be born. Okay, you were born. Be a kid. Okay, go to school for a long time, 20 years, almost. Go to school. Get a job. Get old. And die. And then make the funeral services a ton of money, especially marriage. It's another institution that plays into all this. Not saying marriage is bad or any of those things that I just said are bad. I'm saying the structure underlying them that has been maintained for so long. This is what you're expected, social normality. So what happens is that people are expected to do these things. What I do is I call it the death culture. Okay? It gets you going towards death, actually racing towards it. Basically what it does is it's a rat race. Who can reach death, the finish line, the fastest? Who can accumulate the most shit possible? Which is a big thing among celebrities, Hollywood, you know, very wealthy people, is they have a gigantic excess of things. Accumulate as much cool shit as you can, okay? All the while probably not readdressing or accessing the primal aspect of yourself. Really the only part that you will ever fill or be fulfilled by is connection to this. Basically creating the illusion that you should be chasing the illusion forever, that you should be normal, that you should be a part of the consensus world, the consensus life, what you are expected to do, and there's nothing else, and anything else is a conspiracy theory. But when in 10 years a conspiracy comes out to be true, it's way too late. They just make a movie off of it. That's why there's the Wolf of Wall Street movies and, you know, all the other movies exposing banks and all sorts of things, because it's too late now. The court, the case has already happened, and no one was around to see it because no one pays attention until it comes out on a movie, and they're like, all that happens is, yeah, guys, that stuff happened. Can you believe it? And then nothing happens. That's because it's too late. Those same elite individuals produce those movies. Okay, they rub it in your face. They say, look, we fraudulently, well, not fraudulently, we created the biggest fraud in all of history. We, okay, made everyone poor. We stole money from everyone. We're going to throw it in your face. We're still doing it. We're still orchestrating shit like this. You can't do anything about it. That's what they say to you. That's what they say to you unconsciously through that. They make a movie about it. They say, look what we did. There's even a mainstream movie about how the moon landing was fake. Of course it was. Did you know NASA is also, the whole entire NASA, part of a secret organization? They're part of a secretive sect of Freemasonry, Jesuits. They all have to take an oath of secrecy when they enter into NASA. They're all Freemasons. Not the ones you see at your local chapter. They're all Freemasons. They're all in a secret society. Why would you believe anyone who was in a secret society? Why? Fuck. I want to create a society that has no secrets, that reveals the secrets, okay? Reveals the secrets to everyone. Free secrets, yay. You can get out of this horrible system that these powerful individuals are trying to maintain. It's not that school is bad, it's the way it's been maintained. Schooling is wonderful. Giving children access to people of great knowledge and experience is amazing. As long as the kids have had this individual access for themselves. As long as they have developed themselves to a certain extent where they can express themselves, where they can be a part of programming and still be separate from it at the same time, where they're not dependent on all these crutches that are created for everyone. So, school was originally created in terms of what is now seen as modern schooling systems, all of those things. And, you know, the secret societies that exist are just, they're kind of, we make people comfortable with them through fraternities and those kind of societies. Fraternities, sororities, same thing. They're just getting us warmed up to the fact that the people in power, the people in power positions in the world are secret society members. And we have to become aware of that because it is true. You can look it up yourself, do your own research if you don't agree with me. Come to the same conclusions. So, the schools originally were made to put children in, were basically made to get children ready to become factory workers. That structure still exists today, and how it's maintained, the standardized kind of system that delineates the uniqueness and individuality of kids and people as adults, to where when they get out into the real society, they have no clue what to do. They haven't developed themselves. How could they? How could we ever expect people to come out into the job world to get experience, to do all of these things, when they haven't developed themselves at all, or connection to anything, any part of them, because it's demonized? Why would we even expect them to be able to? course they don't. Alrighty, next one is industry. And this plays into school, gets you ready for industry. Yay! Bear with me here for just a minute. All right, this one I'm going to go over worker ant mentality, industry self-relationship, products to outsource human potential, exploitation of human potential, products that make you soft, how money has corrupted people in power, apologies, industrial power structure, and big industry. Worker ant mentality, again, started with religion in terms of the human metaphysical self. Then goes into school when we're kids, then goes into work, in the office, in the work realm. Worker ant mentality, thinking about everyone else instead of your own individual expression because you don't want to cause drama or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Industry self-relationship. This is a big one. Goes into the same thing. Teacher-kid relationship. Okay. Now, in the same thing in an office exists in a school. There is a hierarchy of power where you have to listen to your managers, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to your managers and all those things. What I'm saying is that you should be able to function as self first and foremost before you function in a power structure like an industry. This, like I go into in one of my last videos, is first and foremost. It is the foundation for everything else. Okay, products. You outsource your human potential. I went into the products and services that outsource human potential, everything from porn to shoes to weight belt straps to apps that deliver your groceries for you and stuff. Everything that outsources your ability to do something. Now, some things are okay, some things you can look past, but I mean, I want to get people to a point where they can do everything everyone else does in terms of, what they pay people to do, what you put your energy out there to get other people to do for you. Okay, now I'm not saying you should make everything in your life, do everything in your life, blah, 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 blah. But what I'm saying is that as a humanity, we need to work towards that. Because if we could, we wouldn't need these things. We wouldn't need this programming. We wouldn't need all of this. And this programming, again, goes into the exploitation of human potential. Okay? You need to be very careful with what you pay people to do. Okay? I go into this as well in the death culture. So a long time ago when we were gods, we did everything. We built things. We built huge structures. We built giant, massive gardens and huge libraries and just a lot of things we did. All right. When you outsource your human potential, when you let people exploit your human self, your human abilities, your human body, what it tells your body is, it sends your body a response. And it says, you don't need to live that long. You're pretty comfortable. Okay? It's going to be no problem, planting your seed, doing all these things. What it does is it creates a time switch. It creates a death switch in your body, in your cells, in your organism. It goes, I'm not going to need to live that long. I'm living pretty comfy. I'm going to be able to do most of the things that I need to do pretty quick. I'm going to have a quick life. Boom, over like that. I'm going to get everything done for me, get my garden, get everything done. I don't need to be, in a lot of respects. My brain doesn't need to function like it used to. That shit can just dial down. I don't have to use my body in this way. That can dial down. And then you get people being dysfunctional. You get people being decrepit. You get decrepitude because of the things we outsource to other people. And this goes into products that make you soft. Goes into this. The one thing is that when you outsource your human potential, you tell your body you don't want to live very long. You tell your body, but if you start doing a lot of things, you start doing a lot of things for yourself, you stop buying your anti-anxiety medication and start breathing properly. Every time you get anxious, you do breathing techniques, you do all sorts of things. You bring around more positive plants, more positive medicines to help you relieve stress, different lifestyle choices to help you do that. Again, everyone's unique. I'm not talking about everyone in this picture. I'm not sure individually. But when you start doing everything, doing as many things as you can, incorporating that back into your life, what it's going to tell you is, especially because that part of your body lives in the wild still, like I've gone over in some of the other ones in terms of social rejection and things like that, part of you still lives in the wild. So if you're making everything, your body is going to go, oh, well, this guy needs to live a long time, because it takes a long time to build a house, at least a year. It takes a long time to do this. It takes a long time to build and cultivate a massive garden to sustain yourself. So what it tells your body is, in your brain, because you're thinking it, you're like, okay, this is going to take this amount of months, this amount of months, this amount of months. I'm going to have to start on this after that. I'm going to have to keep that going and that going and that going and that going. What that tells your brain and then your body is that your body needs to be alive to do all that stuff. Okay, so what it tells your body is, I'm going to be living for decades. I'm going to be living for a long time. When you take back this relationship and you stop letting products make you soft, like a lot of them do, that exploit this part of your human potential, what you do is, and I'm not saying freak accidents can't happen and things can't happen, but you ensure yourself at least the response your body is going to have a long life, so that it needs to live a long time. It needs to adapt, and it needs to evolve and change and become better. If you put the things in place in your life where your body has to get better, where your mind has to get better over time to adapt to those things you want to do, what you do is you ensure a longer, more fulfilled, more active life. So then we go into how money has corrupted those in power. Because since they don't have that relationship developed, or maybe they don't want to develop it because they're the matrix masters, if you don't have that part of yourself developed, which then correlates out to the larger societal body, then guess what? You will always be chasing what is superficial to the self. You will always be chasing the surface layer levels. And you will never find fulfillment there. You will always be trying to fill a cup that has a hole in the bottom of it. Okay? You will always be trying to fill a cup that is empty, that is always going to be empty, no matter how much shit you throw on top of it. Okay? No matter how much, you're just feeding it. You're not satisfying that well. You're not filling that well of being. You're not filling that fountain. That fountain is not overflowing. It is a tiny little stream. You need to add some water to it. You need to make some paths where it leads to a bigger body of water, a big, huge, amazing body of water, and then you need to let that flow through, build a big waterfall, a fountain. So, since we haven't addressed that, this is subtle as a human race, and boundaries is because of this. And that is why this industrial power structure has been able to form, solves the human. And, which is things like big industry, big acts have come into play. So, culture, okay? All right, so the next one is agriculture, okay? Go into agriculture because it is our relationship to the planet, our relationship to food and how we grow it. It's very important. So monoculture is the current system at large, okay? Monoculture, very destructive, not sustainable. It's dysfunctional in a lot of ways and is reflected in other ways that the society is dysfunctional, like in school and stuff like that. This dysfunction spreads throughout the society. Permaculture is its opposite, which means permanent culture. It means a culture focused on permanent sustainability for everyone. This one works better than that one. Okay. Not only that, it maintains biodiversity, does a lot of things that are really good. Look into permaculture as well. What monoculture needs is pesticides, and companies like Monsanto, especially with the GMO agenda, which is basically creating more incentive, creating more demand for other corporations to exist and other services to exist. So it's just another way to make more money. It's not beneficial to anyone. Corn, vegetables, all those things, they're just fine like they are. It's because of this that everything is so fucked up. So it's their own goddamn fault, so they need to fix that shit by doing that. Permaculture. So, pesticides as well. Monsanto released a wonderful chemical. So I want to tell you about Monsanto first. Monsanto used to be, back in Vietnam, a biochemical weapons manufacturer. Okay. So what they did was they created a chemical called Agent Orange, which they sprayed all over Vietnam, and which killed all the life that existed, and then in turn created mutations within the animals and plants and people who lived there, because it leaked into the water supply and stayed there, and then everyone drank it and became ill, and mutated children started happening. And basically it was a massive shit show. Then over the years they turned into a chemical company where they formulate now pesticides. So one of their pesticides, you might have heard of it, it's called Roundup. It's sprayed on over 60% of the crops now. That's why there's a no GMO agenda, because GMOs are sprayed with Roundup entirely. The non-GMO products doesn't necessarily mean it's not sprayed with pesticide Roundup, but it does mean something. The thing about Roundup is, well, it has something in it called glyphosate. Glyphosate. Okay. This, when ingested, is not immediately toxic. Its effects are. So, Monsanto, being a piece of shit company, at one of their conferences was like, guys, it's not toxic, and drank a cup of it. Drank some of it. He was like, look, it's not toxic, blah, blah, blah. Okay, of course it's not. It's not immediately toxic. So what glyphosate does is it inhibits enzymes in your gut, in your colon, that usually will bind heavy metals and let you excrete them out of your body naturally. What this does is it inhibits them so that they can't function. So what you have is you have a steady stream of heavy metals and biotoxins that are now getting into your bloodstream, okay? Now getting into your brain, into your tissues, into your body. And the long-term effects of this are lots of things. All the things we are exposed to in terms of just our water supply with drugs and all sorts of things. What glyphosate does is it creates the environment for your body to become ultra toxified. Now, it is not immediately toxic. So those piece of shit assholes who know this, Monsanto being one of them, a horrible, disgusting company that was once a biochemical weapons manufacturer, you think those people have changed at all? No, they're just creating worse weapons against our humanity. They're just creating worse weapons against biology. And pesticides aren't even needed either. Like, we throw away half the fresh food in this country. Why the fuck do they care if some of the plants die? Go fuck yourself. It's because of monoculture that you exist in such a toxic way. You shitbag. So, then, this, all monoculture and pesticides and stupid agricultural, unsustainable techniques play into the destruction of our earthen body. And this also goes into holographic universe. destruction of our earthen body. So I talked about addressing the internal, and then letting it lay into the external. So, big one, because the external environment is your external body. You ingest your environment, and your body processes that, and then it creates your internal environment. Creates, again, is this loop, this big torrid field. So, destruction of your earthen body is what's happening. Cutting down the trees in the Amazon, destroying the world. It is a higher dimensional manifestation of this evil programming. And what it is doing is it's a higher dimensional manifestation of the de-evolution, the desensitization, the destruction of our primal self and our primal body. What I mean by a holographic universe is that in the universe, because of fractology, we exist in a universe where the part contains the whole, and the whole is also made of the part. So, if you can understand the part, the human, or the cell, you can understand the whole and what is happening on the whole level to a certain degree. On the whole level, it's just more complex. So, what's happening to the human right now, also subsequently, it's happening to the earth, which is our external environment, our external body. The earth is our body just as much as our internal organs are our body. They're just the organs of the planet. We are inevitably and irrevocably and irrevocably a part of it. So this plays into the destruction of the primal body. It is just the higher dimensional level to this human domestication. And it goes into human, okay, human first and foremost. Okay. Once that's conquered over time through religion and its earth, okay, so conquering the earth and domain, we have dominion over the earth given to us by our religion. We are the chosen ones. We can do whatever we fucking want. So then you go to life. This is going to play into what I go over next, which is technology, domestication of life. Creating our own life processes that are domesticated to us. So this plays into technology or the digitality. Damn, my arms are getting tired. So, where this takes us is technology and the digitality, so the digital reality. So, technocracy and the slave race. So, in order for a technological civilization to advance, first and foremost, it has to dehumanize everyone, because in order for you to merge with technology, you have to be convinced that your humanity is no longer necessary and needed for you to function in this world and in this life. Okay? This is also the process of domesticating life itself through technology, turning life into what we want it to be. So, conceptually, techniques, products, and theogens, these kind of go into the same category. So techniques is valuing, and again, it goes down, valuing technique over individual expression. So valuing the tool and creating the relationship where you don't need the tool, but you use it to better yourself. One of my last videos said it's more like a sword. Technology, technique, all of these things are like a sword. Okay? You should be able to fight without it. You should be able to live without these things. You shouldn't need them. Okay? A sword just makes your fighting better. You just use the same moves, and it's better. It's harder than your body, but you should be hard without it. Okay? When that happens, you get weak people. You get little old golem creatures holding a broadsword. They can barely use it. People just come around and hit them. A lot of people can get you to use that technology for things you don't need to use it for. You can be like, hey, can you come help me build my stuff with your sword? Can you help me come chop my wood? They'll get you to do things that you aren't aligned with doing or want to do, or that could be done. Theogens is another one I went over in another video, because this accesses that divine sacrament. And in Catholicism, it goes back to the sacred mushroom. In actually a lot of traditions, it does, or sacred plants that elicit a kind of altered state of consciousness. And this is wonderful. Great. Direct access to the tree of life, the tree of knowledge, all these things. Okay. But you need to be able to function on that level without them. We need to be able to function on a spiritual level, on a connective level without them. It's a big one, because a lot of people are using those things as a crutch now. They are not a crutch. They are accoutrement. They are tools to have access to. And yes, it is our birthright to have access to the earth and technologies, because we are human beings, and it is our birthright of our human nature in the earthen body. Yes, it is a direct insult to our very being. But, again, we cannot confuse them, okay, with self-connection. We cannot use them as a crutch and a dependence. Very important. Because the people of Atlantis, the people of Eden, the people of all these places of Zion and all this stuff, they had that connection down before they went and used the sacraments. They had that connection, and then they elaborated on it. They use it as a sword, as a tool to further their abilities and skills within that spiritual realm. Really important. Okay? We go to praising the digital self over the human self. I went to a commercial in my last one where a guy was in an interview. He was being told all these things that, what are you good at? What do you do? What are your hobbies? And it was just him and his video games. And that was it. It was just him and his video games, being a warrior, badass, warrior, amazing, awesome, doing incredible things. Again, not saying video games are bad. One thing, that that commercial is a kind of praying on that you haven't addressed your human self. You don't feel as though your life is awesome. So we're going to give you these video games and make you feel awesome, give you the illusion of being awesome, so that digital self, so that you never go back and address the human self. You go, why do I think my life is boring? Why don't I feel awesome? But that's really hard. A lot of people don't want to go there because therein lies the deepest truth, is yourself. So that's how they indoctrinate the techno self. They tell you your human self is stupid and dumb and primitive and, you know, fucking useless, and you can't do much with it. That's a lie. And I think we have a lot of latent abilities, you could call them superpowers, but I don't want to call them that. That gives them too much mysticism. But you have a lot of latent abilities and latent human qualities that have been devolved out of us, genetically and metaphysically. This plays into transhumanism, how they want to indoctrinate you into the techno self, get you hating your human body because it's so imperfect. I can't, you know, when I get shot in the arm, I can't just heal immediately like Wolverine, stuff like that. They want you to merge with technology so that they can create the Matrix, which is just, they're just going to power their elite selves. They're going to give you a little playpen in the techno world. Going to give you a little play area for you to run around and chase all your wildest fantasies and dreams, while they have the true seat of power. This is how it's been for thousands of years. They'll never give you a piece of the real fucking action. Okay? This is what the modern transhumanism movement is about. But through emergence, a meeting of sorts with the organic singularity people like me, okay, the technological singularity won't be so bad. So, I'm with the organic singularity guys, for the most part. I think we're pretty great as humans. I don't think death is an end to life, and I don't believe the mainstream science crap. One thing, organic singularity versus the technological singularity. We're gonna have a split in the timelines where a lot of us merge with technology. The people who don't think being human's awesome are going to merge with technology, okay, and they're going to become cybernetic organisms. Nothing wrong with that. There's plenty of those, including mycology. Myco networks act in a very similar way. But the thing is I like being human. I like the human experience. I like this. It's awesome. So I want to see what I can do with this to its fullest extent before ever thinking about upgrading. I want to retrace it. I want to retrace back to that God self before I go into technology. Because again, technology is just it's accoutrement. So if you become your highest potential self and can go no further, then why not become a part of the technological singularity? Why not? But see, when you're navigating through that technological singularity, you're not going to run into the same problems some people are going to run into because of the technique and the organic relationship. Your relationship to your organic being is not sound, then it'll translate into this, and you'll just be in a little fantasy world for eternity. And you won't get any real shit done. Now, I can't really even say what the real shit would be right now because that is so inconceivable to me, what it would be like. But if I get to my God self, and I feel pretty okay with going to the technological technique aspect of it, getting upgraded, I'm fine with that too. And this plays into the whole movement of kind of mainstream science and getting you to think that human bodies aren't that great. We're pretty imperfect, blah, blah, blah. Don't have access to much. We could have a lot more potential if we just put the computer chip in our head. Blah, 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 fucking blah. Well, I think there's a lot missing from humanity that we don't know about. I know there is a lot missing. I'm going to end it right here. Modern medicine. Bear with me for a second. This goes into modern medicine. This is the last part of the video. This is pretty long, but hope I've made it be well to follow. This is my closing note where I want to go in the future. So modern medicine, in my opinion, it's more of kind of an emergency crisis management system. Okay, it deals with emergency in terms of ambulatory services, in terms of hospitals, things like that. When bad shit happens, they're the ones you call. The thing about it is that money gets involved. And this is when cures are not found. When money gets involved in anything, the power structures that be within the money manipulate it to suit their gains. And this happens naturally. That's okay. That's fine. At a distance. Okay. The reason why they don't usually find cures for the major illnesses in our world today is because there is not a cure. And what I mean by that is, for most of the illnesses that are most plaguing our world, it doesn't have to do with one thing within the body, which is what symptoms are usually about. So if you want to cure yourself of things, you have to find the source. This is why cancer treatments don't work as much. Radiation, yes, does kill cancer cells and kills you as well. So that's one of the best treatments you can get, is killing yourself until the cancer dies. I think that's fucking bullshit. So the reason why they haven't found a cure for cancer is because it won't make them money. So there's a lot of work done by Dr. Simpson, Rick Simpson. He, I believe, functions out of Colorado. Anyways, he found a cure for any stage of cancer. It has many patient documents on this. He has cured stage 4 cancer, all of it, using simple cannabis oil. Simple oil extracted from the cannabis plant. So, he has found a pretty unique cure, a pretty unique treatment for it. What also comes with it is how you basically at the source. So how does cancer happen? We know it is more of a metabolic disease than it is just a random happenstance. So it has a lot to do with lifestyle. So if you go in for a good heart disease treatment, they get all the plaque off the inside of your walls. You're still gonna have to change your life. If you don't want to get heart disease again, you're gonna have to change the way you live, change the way you breathe, change the way you do everything. And it's the same with cancer. So yes, the cure is not a substance. That's not going to cure you of things. What is going to cure you is addressing it at the source, which is yourself, your human self. It's the most important. I will stand by that forever. The source is where it's at. So he found what looks like a cure for cancer, but it is not. Still, it is a treatment. And even if it was a cure, it's just an extract from a plant. So these massive pharmaceutical corporations cannot make money off of it. They've already tried to make money off of it, but the derivatives that they make to patent don't function as well. They don't function almost at all, because the whole plant matrix is what creates the environment for it. So another thing that this translates into with the money and financial institution is that it's not necessarily about wellness, and I don't think it should be, because what they're about is emergency crisis management. So they're about symptom management, okay, or invasive surgeries, what is it called? Like surgeons, like things like that, emergency. So having to cut you open and look at a muscle and attach it to things and do all sorts of intense, major invasive surgeries. So you have to know that it's not made for wellness. It's not made for that. It's not set up structurally to have a wellness attribute to say, go back, address your lifestyle. Here is a program for you where you readdress your human nature, you readdress everything in your life. That doesn't happen. You say, okay, you need to start exercising, you start doing this, but those are all techniques. Again, eating better, that's even a technique. What does that fucking mean? There's so much information to it that it needs to be an empowerment structure. It needs to be, okay, listen, you need to become empowered for your life. And that means you need to start researching things. You need to start reassessing your whole fucking life. If you have cancer, that needs to be the number one thing. Because if you survive, what's stopping you from getting cancer again? You better be real up on your shit if you're not going to get cancer again. And that means reassessing your lifestyle or heart disease or any of these things. Not saying every case is going to happen that way. I'm not giving some stupid, perfect treatment for everyone. What I'm saying is that the new wellness paradigm is going to be post-crisis. It's going to be, okay, guys in the hospital, you handle the crisis stuff. Y'all are the best at it, it seems. Okay, y'all are the best at taking someone from being dead to bringing them back to life, to putting them towards their recovery. Okay, or you get someone being septic, or some kind of emergency. You can just name them, but it gets you back to a baseline. Now from here, this is where the wellness paradigm comes in. So the wellness, the new wellness medicine movement, has to do with naturopathy. Has to do with new wellness protocols. Okay, has to do with bioenergetics. Has to do with a lot of things. Has to do with movement. Has to do with breathing. Has to do with relationships to your body and to the environment. So draw a little thing. This is where the new movement is already going. So it takes you from crisis to baseline, and then the wellness paradigm takes you to wellness. So in between this is going to be bioenergetics, breathing, bioenergetics, or it could just be, bioenergetics. Everything to get you here, which is like breathing, connection to your body, connection to everything around you, creating relationships, all of those things. And then after you get to wellness, you come down to technique. And or practice. This is where you get into the real shit. This is where you go from being very well, very fit, mentally, physically, everything. Being able to breathe optimally, being able to have wonderful posture, being able to express yourself. Then from there, going to technique or practice. So using the techniques I've talked about, the technologies, social media, all these things, using them, because now you have all that addressed, all the stuff about you addressed. Then you can start using these techniques as preventative measures, almost to a certain extent, for lifestyle illnesses, which are called chronic illnesses. But to me, they're lifestyle illnesses. So this is what the new wellness paradigm is also about with medicine in general. And this whole thing, what this has done is the programming, the human domestication programming, over thousands of years has delineated and diluted the experience of human beings so that we can be indoctrinated into these protocols. And what this has done is it has separated everyone. So from the fall of, from the golden age all the way to where we are today, which is, President of the United States, Trump, where we are today is because of this. So what happened is everyone got separated, and then everything got separated. So crisis and wellness separated over time. All of these things have been separated as programmings to make you think that you don't need wellness, you just need doctors. That's how doctors began. They used to be root doctors or medicine men, things like that. Both of them function well separate from each other, and together as a full spectrum system, they function even better. And that's a big part of one of my purposes, is bringing together all these aspects into something that's functional and understandable, where we can have agriculture that's sustainable, we can have school that's sustainable, we can have all these things that's sustainable. What I would call, we can have alpha culture, where individuals are assessed, individuals are addressed by themselves. And this creates a better culture, a better world, a better everything. This concludes my human domestication video, my human domestication protocol. There will be about 3 more parts to this series. I hope you have enjoyed. Check out the website. The podcast will be up there soon. Check out my artist shop at becomealphapodcast.com or becomealphapodcast.threadless.com. Also, subscribe to my channel. I want to build an awesome community of people who are knowledgeable, who have experience, who want to change lives, who want to bring people to that knowledge of individual expression and individual truth. So, I leave you with that. I hope you have a good one. Go chase your alpha self. All right. Thank you for watching.